Good morning, everyone. Really quick note, I will periodically be drinking tons of water because I'm at the tail end of what happens to be a very, very rough cold. So I apologize in advance, but we're going to get through this with the energy that we need. And I appreciate you giving me your Friday morning to hear some musings about personal branding. So we'll get kicked off as soon as possible by doing the infamous, can you see my screen? Which I think we should be good to go. Awesome, thumbs up is a beautiful something. Cool. So today we're going to be talking about owning your narrative and intro into personal branding. It's not going to be possible for us to cover absolutely everything. I think the big kind of takeaway that I'd love if there was only one for us to kind of have from this session is that you have a little bit more knowledge about being able to post for the first time. It doesn't really matter whether you're someone who's posted before or you're someone who's kind of getting back into it or you want a bit more guidance, but the idea really is by the end of the session, you should have a bit more information to be able to say, I can post and it's fairly easy. It's really, really simple. So that's kind of the mission for today. We're going to do three things are going to happen. We're going to explore as a group because there's a lot of myth busting that we'll need to do when it comes to personal branding. Engage. I will try and make it as fun and energetic as possible because no one wants to listen to a guy with half a cold talk for ages and ages and ages. And entertain. Let's keep it fun. Let's keep it light because at the end of the day, it is Friday morning and we're racing to get to the afternoon. So, quick cover of today's agenda. We'll cover who I am, kind of the problem when we're looking at personal branding, like what is it that we're solving. We'll look towards the future of authentic marketing. I'll provide some case studies off the back of that. And then I'll give you a framework. And this is the part that really and truly I want you all to if anything, that's the only part that's you know, the big takeaway. And then if we've got time, we'll do a mini game. And then obviously that will lead to the Q&A. So yeah, I'm racing through this so that we can get to the Q&A session. I think it's the most important part for you guys to ask me as many questions as possible. Happy to answer anything. If you think you're going to forget a question, you can write it in the chat and we can pick it up at the end, or you can write it down. Doesn't really matter either way. And the last small note is I've tried to make these slides as screenshotable as possible. So if there is a slide that you want to take a screenshot of, I have no objections. Take the screenshots. They're there for you to keep, to hold, and to look at in the middle of the night. Cool. So let's do a temperature check. In the chat, can you do me a favor? There's mixed levels of abilities here, so just to kind of get an understanding. On a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you in posting, specifically about yourself online? So 10 being, yep, love doing it every single day, and 1 obviously being, I don't think I'll ever do this in my life. Ooh, a 2, a 6. Lots of 6s is really interesting. Lots of 6s, an 8, I love that. Awesome. So some fairly confident people, some people who are looking for a little bit more guidance, and it's good that we're both here because everyone can learn from everyone. What I want you to do is keep hold of that number. If you can't find it, you can just scroll up a little bit later on. And we'll do a little bit of a check at the end to see how you fare, if things have changed, or if they've stayed the same. And if they have, then we'll have a big discussion, So a bit of an intro to me and the company I run. I am the founder of Scale Story, and we specialize in empowering founders and CEOs to become better storytellers. What that basically means is everything to do with storytelling and everything to do with a video camera smashed together is basically where we sit in that wonderful sweet spot of just getting people in front of the camera to share their stories. The main reason for that are those 3 points there, that we want people to go from the mindset of outbound, everything I need I have to chase, to attracting it, be it influence, investment, impact. That could be with your customers, that could be with your clients, that could be with key stakeholders. The second thing is obviously to stand out as a thought leader so that people know you for the thing that you do best and they lean into your credibility and they begin to trust you over a period of time, be it months, be it years, irrelevant or agnostic to kind of what that looks like. But the idea is that that's what we're trying to get you to. And the third thing, which is I think actually the most important thing, is to be able to show up with confidence. It's being able to sit and talk about the thing that you do every single day without worrying if it's the right thing and if it's the wrong thing. And we'll explore some frameworks for that. A little bit of intro about myself specifically. So I've been kind of within the space of working with business owners, founders, CEOs for the past 10 years. Originally started off as a videographer, doing lots of product and service-based content. I've amassed in that time over 5,000 hours of content, which is a lot of fun to scan through. Some really great projects, some not so great. And I think it's about 130 projects that I've covered, including Scale Story to date, which interestingly is quite a lot of exports, a lot of time sitting, rendering, watching things. On the startup side of things, I've helped companies raise over 10 million, which is that number will change towards the end of this year. Helped grow socials to over 260K and helped reach organic reach by 150%. All of these numbers and all of these stats are actually fairly irrelevant. They're vanity metrics. I don't really think that they are useful. They're good to know, but I think what's more interesting is who I am, and I'm a guy that's worked in too many sectors. Apart from all of these stats about raising money and doing all these hours of content, I love to support early stage startups. I love to champion others who really and truly need more of that guidance, more of that help, because they're mostly fighting for their lives at the very beginning. There's not much funding, there's not much guidance, not much support, and I think being able to be in a space to help people to kind of get through those early stages is really, really important. Within my role as a founder, I am a producer and executive coach, director of photography and editor. All of these things kind of sit under my umbrella, and it's not to say that I do them every single day, but it just kind of gives you this picture of the company that's shaped today and the person that I am today is in a massive 10 years and lots of different things happening. I love storytelling, as you might be able to know, and a huge fan of anime. So if you've got any recommendations for anime, please do let me know. Now, the reason why I tell you this is to kind of give you a better picture of why the startup world is important to me. I've worked in across many different sectors, and what I found within the startup sector is that there is a real issue when it comes to being able to grow and be able to nurture your business if you've not got the ability to tell stories, which we'll explore a little bit more today, which leads us on to the death of startups and why it affects us all. The reason why so many startups are dying is because essentially there's a list of things we can look at, and I won't bore you with all of the bullet points here, but the point on the left is what I want us to focus on for a second, which is more than 2/3 of startups never deliver a positive return to investors. And that ultimately leads into either a slow death or a quick one. Essentially, if you're not able to deliver a positive return, the business is not profitable, and therefore, some point, if nothing changes, everything comes to a stop. And the reasons for this could be product market fit, or your teams, the resilience, the founders, looking at all of these kind of bullet points that are here. But the real question that I ask is, how do you become part of that 27%? How do you become a startup that stands out? How do you become a founder that really and truly is able to show up in a way that's different and rather than survive, move from surviving to thriving? And I think as much as we can look at this whole list of problems of how do we solve product market fit and how do we serve poor teams, we can look at something that's a little bit more fundamental that encompasses a lot of this, which is the fact that the majority of startups die because they're not able to communicate the problem they're solving. If you can communicate the problem you're solving to a team member, then they can see the vision and mission that you have, and they can champion that and run with you. The same thing is true for investors. The same thing is true for clients. If we become better storytellers in being able to show up and say, hey, I have this wonderful vision of a future where things exist smoothly, seamlessly, effortlessly, then really and truly, all you're really doing is kind of gathering loads of people along this journey who become part of this movement. And this is an internal exercise as much as it's an external exercise. And unfortunately, I think that it doesn't really matter where you are, whether you're early stage or kind of, just about to IPO, the storytelling just becomes broader and wider as you grow. So it's important that if you can get it right from the beginning, you can really, really fly. Excuse me, it is definitely cold time. We're getting there. So we'll touch on the future of authentic marketing. Spoiler alert, it is storytelling. And I appreciate I'm flying through this just so we can get to the Q&A, but if I am going too fast, do tell me to slow down. Not a problem at all. So when it comes to authentic marketing, when it comes to showing up, we can look at all sorts of different things like performance marketing, ads, being able to, do blogs, look at your funnels and be able to say, okay, my business will be secure because I'm going to spend X amount of money on marketing every single month. The difficulty is that we are moving from an age where we can use very clear funnels to say we do awareness at the top and then we kind of slowly push people down to conversion as quickly as possible and then make a sale. People don't want to be sold to anymore. People really buy into the idea of a person and a brand as opposed to a company and its four walls. And we'll explore some of these now. Here are 3 examples of founders who are really championing founder-led storytelling. So the first one is Melanie Perkins, who's the founder of Canva. Now, Melanie is a really interesting one because Melanie basically, her thought leadership is all around championing others and equality within entrepreneurship. Aside from that, building Canva at the same time, the 2 notions obviously lead and kind of go hand in hand because it's very easy for Melanie to talk about all of the things that she's doing at Canva and all of the things that she's doing to kind of champion the equality and the humility and the kind of human side of the business. Really, really simply boiled down, obviously, we can look at examples of the things that she posted, and they did a really interesting documentary, I think it was the end of last year, tail end of last year, about the challenges that she had in being able to do that. And it really resonated with people. Someone that you might be more familiar with is Mr. Simon Squibb, who's all over your TikToks, your Facebooks, your Instagrams, and your LinkedIn's, giving thousands of pounds every single day. And his whole ethos is everything that he's learned, he's now willing to give back and to give to others. And what is fantastic about that is he's grown the same sort of following that we were talking about earlier on. People can see the vision and mission of being able to help others. And he now, very recently, I guess sort of last year it must have been, launched Help Bank with the goal of being able to create a space for mentorship where people can learn from people. And it's all free. You can sign up today and you can help somebody today if you wanted to. But the point I'm making here is that his TikTok following and his, I guess, global social following has grown because of that. And then we have Sam Jones, who will explore a bit more in detail, who went on Dragon's Den, had an incredible pitch and got really, really great feedback from loads of news outlets, and then took that momentum and continued to champion data privacy and teaching and educating others on the topics of data privacy. These are all things that are great to kind of show and say, hey, this person spoke online and great things happen, but it's not really tangible until we look at what does it actually look like for us. So for everyone in the room right now and everyone who's watching the recording, the main thing is that we need to understand what is it that people are doing that we can take away, that we can learn from. And I think it's 4 key ingredients that are able to kind of comprise this really, really simple and really, really boiled down version of here's how I show up. So take another sip. Good Lord. Tell you what, by the time we get to the Q&A, I might not have a voice. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a good one. We're going to get there. So the first thing is purpose, which you all have. But Sam's purpose was to educate people on how to take back control of their data. For the people in this room, I think when we look at purpose, it can sometimes be quite complex to try and think about, because we start thinking about, okay, but what is it that I'm trying to show people? How can I show people that I am the person that knows? And I want to remind you all that there is nobody who has spent more time thinking about your business than you. There is nothing that you don't know about your business to date. The only things you don't know are in the future. So the purpose that you have and the reason that you're up at 2 a.m. fighting with ChatGPT to figure out answers of what you might do for the next week, month, year, is in that kind of fire, in that ember within you that says, hey, I really want to make a mark in the world. Your business exists to make a mark. Ollie, Lee, Gary, Harry have created Startup to Standup because they believe that there is a world in which founders are able to co-create and co-learn and be in spaces where they're able to kind of challenge each other and grow. And that is the purpose of Startup to Standup. All of you here have a purpose, and all of you have one that genuinely should be heard by more people. It's not just the consumers that are buying from you, and it's not just the investors. There is a wider world that would love to hear the things that you're creating. Second thing is your audience. Really easy part. Who the hell are we talking to? It's very easy to say, when it comes to marketing, I want to speak to everyone, everyone is relevant. But I think kind of looking back at that first slide when we're looking at what Scale Story does, we look at stakeholders, we look at consumers, we look at clients, we look at investors, we look at staff. If you're posting content, who ideally would you love to see it? And for Sam's audience, it was everyday internet users who essentially were tired of being stolen from by big tech and said, hey, I want to be able to earn something back from it. The hidden line that isn't here, but it's what him and I discussed, is that essentially he wants to also use it as a way of being able to attract top tier staff, people that understand the world of data and can see it through the lens of Generate and can say, actually, do you know what? I really, really want to be part of this mission. And then beyond that, more things will come, which we'll explore a little bit later on. But your audience is essentially who are you trying to speak to and how can we speak to them on a daily, monthly, weekly basis? Cadence is not the issue, more so it's the thought behind what we're posting. Third thing is teaching. As experts in the field that you're in, and if you didn't know that until today, I will tell you now, you're all experts in the field that you're in because nobody should spend this much time and not know anything. You can teach people things that ultimately to you might seem mundane, but to somebody else, they're incredibly valuable. So for Sam's, the motive behind Sam's teaching is how can he turn your online presence into real value? And he didn't really care too much about it being this plug to use my services, Generate will get all your data privacy needs sorted and come to us. Actually, he also shares really, really simple and efficient tips on how to navigate the internet better, easier, understanding how cookies work, which we'll explore a little bit later, and basically being a thought leader on something that people are saying, here's a myth, and Sam can talk about it and say, well, this is the reality. And we're happy to say it's a myth because of these reasons, but I'm trying to teach you that data is not complex, data is really simple, and because I know my audience and because I know my purpose, I can always teach more and more and more. And the last thing is the kiss. Kissing is my favorite thing in this life. Most of you won't want to kiss me right now because I'm very, very congested. However, keep it simple, stupid, keep it simple, silly, keep it simple, student, whatever you want it to say. But the idea here is we're very good at overcomplicating things. We're very good at saying, oh, but if I post content, it needs to be on a Tuesday and I've got a board meeting that day, so maybe it'll be Wednesday, but then I've got to pick the kids up from school, so maybe I'll do it next week. And it doesn't have to be that complicated. You don't need a fancy lighting setup. You don't need an expensive camera. You don't even need a camera. You can do a text post. You can do a picture post. You can do a video post. You can do selfie camera. There are loads of different ways of doing things. And I think this is probably out of these four things where most people fail. Most people will look at those first three things and say, okay, I've got something, I'm ready to go, and they never go, they never act upon it because their systems are way too complicated. So we're all aware of MVPs, we're all aware of the kind of prototype versions of something. What is the MVP of the content that you're making? If a video is your goal and you find that difficult to do because of time, then write a text post. Write a text post and put it out onto the internet and see what happens. If you get 4 likes, that's 4 likes better than you got yesterday, and then we'll slowly graduate towards videos. But the idea is just simplify it. You're all very smart, you're all very intelligent, but sometimes we just need to take that intelligence and say, brain, go away, I'm just gonna post, just gonna post. So here's an example of Sam's text post. This is obviously a longer one, but it was a reactive post. Meta had released, I think this was maybe about 2 years ago, an update to their terms and conditions, and it essentially meant that AI could learn from your profile and basically scan your whole profile. And the only way you could stop it was by writing a very specific message that you'd have to copy and paste into a weird convoluted, going into settings, clicking this, clicking that, clicking this. And he got a bunch of messages from people saying, hey, what do you think about this? And he was like, oh, it's really easy. You just click these buttons and stop it. This post, it's not that it went viral, it's not that it took off, but it's a great example of how we could sit there thinking, let's make a video about this and inform people about how dangerous it is and what's happening with the world of Meta, or just write a couple of words, post it, put it out. Because we know our purpose, because we know who we're teaching, we know our audience, and we know how to keep things simple, once you have this framework, there is nothing that you can post that is wrong, if that makes sense. You understand where you're coming from. I think the next example is a video. It's 30 seconds, so don't worry, I'm not going to bore you with it. But this is just an example of taking the same sort of mindset and saying, how can we make this into a 30-second video? So this is Sam busting a myth that we've all heard and just explaining it in a bit more detail. So I'll share it with you now really quickly and take the opportunity to drink a lot of water.
Do you ever get the feeling that your phone is listening to you? Well, the truth is they don't even need to, because they already know everything about you.
We've already entered a new wave of technology made by companies whose goal is to learn everything they can about us.
Your location, your interests, your demographics, your gender, your income. Unacceptable! It's crazy.
So this is a really easy example of how, if we were to overcomplicate this, Sam and I sat down and filmed this, and I think there was two versions. The first version is him explaining, well, here are all the things that you're able to do to prevent people from, prevent your phone from basically listening to you. So how do you turn off location settings? How do you turn off privacy settings? How do you turn off after track? And I think the video was about 5 minutes long. And we went back to this whole KISS profile and said, look, what is it that we're actually doing here? Like, what is it that we're trying to talk about? How do we keep it simple? And essentially it was, the myth is your phone is tracking you, but the reality is you're giving it all the information already. So we want people to take away, what we want to teach people is, essentially, you need to understand that the phone listening is not the problem. It is how you are using the phone and how you're interacting with the phone. Off the back of that, then come obviously questions, and then people ask, well, what is it that I can do? And then the really easy answer is you can answer those in comments, you can answer those in a text post, you can answer those in a video post, you can do whatever you like. But you're just setting this foundation to say, simply going to think about something, nice packaging around it, and that nice packaging doesn't need to be anything too complex. It can just literally be, as I've explained, what are we trying to teach? We know who we're trying to teach, and we know why they're here. What is it that we're trying to get to them? And can we get it done in less than a minute? That's a really, really good measure or margin of how easy it is to do things. So all of this is also great because it just shows that, hey, people can post content, and hey, people can reply to you, and hey, you can build small communities and get engagement. But what does it mean as a founder? What does it mean to your pocket? What does it mean to your profit? What does it mean to your margins? So from Sam beginning his storytelling journey with us in 2021, I believe we started with Sam. So we've been going about 4 years now. I'm getting old. There was a number of things that happened. So the first thing was he was invited to speak at Web Summit twice. This came through a DM on LinkedIn. They'd seen some of the content that Sam was posting about thought leadership, and then kind of gone down the rabbit hole of seeing what Generate did and said, oh, we love what you do. We'd love you to speak on our main stage. And he did that 2 years in a row, which was really great. Got flown out to Lisbon, had a good time. He was invited to speak with the Prime Minister at Downing Street, which was a private invitation for, I believe, 50 entrepreneurs that were kind of disruptors within the UK, and then a selected 10 were kind of brought into a private room to discuss more about what the government could be doing, which kind of touches on the talk that happened before, which is really interesting. Subsequent to being invited to Downing Street, they then invited him to join the Smart Data Council. The Smart Data Council is essentially the kind of thought leaders within the space of the UK who help the government make new legislations towards data privacy laws, because now that obviously the UK is destroyed from the EU, it's really complex to kind of say what is right and what is wrong. Really easy to do it if you've got someone who knows exactly what needs to be done and they're working on it every single day. Successfully raised 5 million raised, with the majority of it being inbound, warm, and reinvestment. What this essentially meant was that a number of his investors had been watching his journey and his thought leadership on LinkedIn, and when it came to raising the funds, they commented a lot on the videos and the content that he'd been putting out to say it's really, really cool. And he obviously has been raising money for the startups that existed since 2018. I think the 2022 raise, we had a chat and he said it is the easiest raise that he's done because people already knew what was happening. He didn't have to convince somebody of what's happening within my business. They could see it from the outset. Backed by a roster of celebrity investment, so that's including Harry Redknapp, Tiny Temper. There's more that I'm forgetting now. They'll come to my mind, but I guess if you go on the Generate website, you'll see more. All really awesome people as well. Really, really cool to hang with. And it's always nice to kind of be able to say, hey, this person backs my investment, and they're public facing. Great for PR, great to then kind of do more things around that. He won the Great British Entrepreneur Award Disruptor of the Year, and again came off the back of posting content and then going down the rabbit hole and saying we love what you're doing, we've seen content, and we would love to invite you to our award ceremony. And at the award ceremony won, and there's content of that, of course, because why wouldn't there be? And then was invited to speak on BBC News twice and Sky News about the topic of data privacy. As you all know, PR is incredibly hard, getting on the news is incredibly difficult. However, it's a lot easier when someone can point and say, this guy knows about this topic and it's currently something we need to get a thought leader on. And if you can see the thought leader constantly showing up, then it's very easy to say, hey, we'd love to have a chat with you. So he spoke live on those two things. And then the last thing is obviously he's featured on loads of major outlets. So, you know, these big news outlets, and again, comes from banging that drum over and over and over again. This is just proof of the pudding of how easy content can be. When Sam did get invited to Downing Street, we asked him as a joke to steal some toilet paper from the toilets, and he came back and framed it. So it's not always serious content. It's not always thought leadership about how you can change your life. Sometimes it's, I stole some toilet roll from a toilet, and I think it's 700 likes for toilet roll. So there's no rules to this as long as you know who your audience is. Ultimately, all I'm saying is if you don't own your narrative, someone else will create it for you. A lot of you here have posted, haven't posted, are thinking about posting. While you're not posting, someone else is making up the narrative of what you're doing. And typically it's nothing. They assume you're not doing anything, and that's a harsh reality to kind of reside in, and it's not fair for anyone. And the truth behind it is not many people are great storytellers. So if an investor can't see what you're doing, if a client can't see what you're doing, if a consumer can't see what you're doing, they will assume that nothing is happening. But if they can see what you're doing and they can see there's momentum behind it, then their belief is the trajectory of that is going to continue and become exponentially bigger, better, and faster. And then you become the person that people want to back, the person that people want to say, actually, I want to work with this person because they have what it takes to move these things forward. And all of you who have raised, or all of you who are looking to raise, or all of you who are looking to kind of do bigger partnerships will know that a lot of the conversation comes from who are you and are you credible? Now imagine if the person knew that you were credible and knew who you were before you even jumped on the call, before you even kind of connect with the person. What happens is, rather than you selling to them, it becomes a very different situation where the person says, hey, I love what you do, here are my ideas. And everyone would love to have a phone call where someone says, hey, I'd love to invest 2 million into your business because I've seen some videos. Sounds crazy, but the reality is there is a non-linear return of investment by putting yourself out there and consistently kind of showing up. So, all of this to say, you just need a structure, you just need a format, and you just need to figure out your why. You need to figure out what your North Star is. And you, my stars, are going to figure that out now because I'm going to give you a framework for this. Spoiler, spoiler, spoiler alert, this is a screenshot slide. So the recipe to success when posting online are 4 things. 1, you need to have purpose. Number 2, you need to know your audience. Number 3, you need to teach something. And number 4, you need to kiss. You've seen it before, and we'll show it again. These are the things that will essentially get you to be able to post more consistently, correctly, without the fear or worry that you're going to be posting the wrong things. And more importantly, you're able to communicate ideas really, really well. With your purpose, you're anchoring in something bigger. It is who you are, what your vision is, and we're talking about that future in 10, 15 years' time. And you constantly bang that drum. The same way you do internally, you're now going to do it externally. Your audience, it's not about going viral. It's not about once you've understood who it is less about 1,000 eyes or 1 million eyes and saying, hey, my video did really, really well and I feel really proud of myself. It's about the relevant eyes. If 10 investors see a post that you did and they reach out to you to say, hey, we'd love to invest, that is way better than having sort of 3 or 4 people just, 300, 400 people just say, hey, I liked your stuff. It doesn't do anything for you. Teach, teach, teach. You understand the pain points, you understand the lingo, keep it really simple. You understand people's level of awareness because it is your world of expertise. Break down what you know, share what you've tested, share what you've tried, share what you failed, share where things didn't go so well. And always kiss. With or without a cold, kiss, kiss, kiss. I've spoken enough. I've spoken way too much. So I want to know, I need a volunteer essentially. Someone who's brave enough, I'll give you a couple of seconds to think about putting your hand up, but someone who's brave enough to say they can share what their 4 points would be when we're looking at the purpose and teaching and audience and how they're going to kiss. Who's feeling brave?
Why am I the only one that ever puts my hand up?
We
I
love
thought
it.
I'd give
We love
everyone
it.
else
Go.
5 seconds, but okay. So what you've said really resonates here with me. So our specialism is Apple, really. So we work very closely with Apple to deploy Apple's systems across businesses. So we look at IT from a different perspective,
Hmm.
and our purpose is very driven around data protection, data privacy, and also not getting my words out right, but green credentials essentially. All the
Yeah.
things that Apple's values stand for is we stand for, and we want to engage with businesses to help them make better choices and build better businesses based on these same principles. So that's our
Hmm.
purpose. So our
Okay.
audience do I keep going through all four of them,
Yeah,
or?
yeah, yeah.
Yep. So our audience really are entrepreneurs, and from a demographic point of view, it tends to be younger entrepreneurs in their 20s and 30s that already understand these principles and are looking to the future, and they want to build a business based on these foundations. And we think we could help them to do that. So we need to. This is the audience I need to find, and this is a little bit where I get stuck because I don't know if I'm doing that right.
Yeah.
Teach is that we can teach alongside Apple, particularly because they have a lot of resources that we can use and we can share on, and we can build on from a point of view of they keep it very broad, but we can actually bring that down to a level where we can help a business understand what they will get out of it and how it will help their business. So
Yeah.
we can teach by making relevant what is out there in a very broad way. Apple's good for the environment, but why? What is it they do, and how will this benefit your business if we bring it into it? We can teach
Correct.
that. And then what we can do on the final bit on the kiss is just keep plugging away at it, and that's I suppose down to us as a business to work out how we do that.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing this. I think what's really amazing about what you said is when you talked about audience, you said, well, we know it's young entrepreneurs, we don't really know how to get to them. And then the next thing you said was, we can work alongside Apple, who would have access to all of the people that you want to target. So I think a big thing about what we've been talking about today is this mindset shift of we're not talking about how do you go and find these people. It's the opposite. It is how do you put out content that someone says, oh God, I love this. I want to see more of it. And you keep building that up and up and up and up and up. You've got a huge advantage of being able to work alongside Apple, and you've got a bigger advantage in being able to say, their stuff's confusing, our stuff's simple. If you could choose between working with someone who's complicated and someone who's simple, who would you work with? And then on the last point on kissing, essentially, yes, beating the drum is important, but you need to figure out what is the simplest way for you to show up at Apple online, regardless of what it is, that you know that if you were suffering from 2 days of having a cold, low energy, you could still put something out. And I think it's less about can we keep it, because that's what we do. We say, yeah, I've got a post, I've got a post, I've got a post. We never do it. We never do it. If we keep it as simple as possible, we just need to find a way to do that. So no, I really appreciate you sharing that, James. Thank you so much.
And thank you for the opportunity.
Can we do a temperature check? So we had a couple of 6s, 7s, 8s in the chat at the very beginning, and I think a couple other different numbers. But yeah, would love to hear more about where we're sitting now. Let's see this. 6.5 and 9. I love it, James. To 8. MGD. 8.5. So this is great. This is good. So generally speaking, it looks like we're kind of on average a little bit up. Hold on, there's one that I think I just saw there, which was a 7.7. Ollie, I love the specificity of that, and an 8. But no, I appreciate you all for listening. I will open up the floodgates for us to do a Q&A. There is an obligatory QR code for you to be able to connect with me if you want to. But yeah, connect with me. There's one more thing I was going to mention. I have a resource that it's free to use. You can all use it. It's called Finding a North Star. It's a series of questions within a self-help guide, and it will allow you to essentially answer some of the questions we talked about today in terms of how do I do this? Who am I speaking to? What am I going to talk about? You kind of go through the, document, answer the questions, and it will give you more of an insight into who you are and what you're doing. So no, thank you for your time. Open for all and every question.
Can I just interject, Kenneth? That was absolutely fabulous, and I'm so pleased and proud that you're part of our Startup to Stand Up speaker network. It's really great to have you part of that.
Thank you so much.
You're going to get a lot of love and big ups and the rest of it on LinkedIn today and over the weekend and on Monday going into next week. Any questions for Kenneth this morning? Mike?
Cheers, Ollie. Thanks, Kenneth, for that. It's always good to just remind yourself sometimes that you can overcomplicate it, I think, and get too far into your head, and actually it's better to get something out there and see what the response is. One of the things that I don't understand, I've been thinking about a lot recently about LinkedIn, is you see people that are obviously kind of whatever, your influencers or whatever, that will post something really dull and that could have been written by anybody and it gets 10,000 likes, and you post something that's really from the heart and you get 8. Now, is there algorithms that we should be thinking of? Is there something kind of deeper that's actually going on in how LinkedIn recognize posts or promotes posts that's worth thinking about?
Yeah. So as an agency that works with social media, I could tell you 17 million hacks to be able to kind of beat the algorithm. So one of the really easy ones right now is LinkedIn is one of the only platforms that rewards people for posting video content because they're in competition with Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and they're not winning the race so far. So that's like a really easy hack. However, is that good advice? I think there is a tendency for us to chase trends and chase algorithms. But unfortunately, algorithms change every single week. Trends change every 2 or 3 days. So the only thing that we can definitely do and control is staying consistent in what you're saying, these heartfelt posts. I think to what we've kind of explored today, I would say that your internal algorithm should be what is going to resonate with other people. And if right now in the room that you're in, 8 people showed up and started clapping, would you feel good about yourself? Because I think sometimes we say, oh, someone else got 1,000 views for a post that I don't think is necessarily good. 1,000 of those people could just genuinely be on the bandwagon of, I think this person is famous and I just want to like what they do. And we kind of forget that those 8 people, again, going back to the kind of not looking at virality and looking at like what this looks like for you, is that those 8 people could change the nature shape of your business in one message and one DM. So think more about your internal algorithm of how am I going to post content that resonates with the audience that I want to speak to, agnostic of whether it's 800 likes or 8 likes. If you want to explore more of the algorithm stuff, I would say that you can do. There's tons of stuff you can get off YouTube. But I think you just kind of go down another rabbit hole where it's the opposite of kissing. It's more so, if I do this, I'll get loads of likes. Awesome, you got the likes. Now what? It's another way of keeping us busy, and our calendars are already full.
Some brilliant tips there and hacks from Kenneth. Thank you. Any additional questions for Kenneth this morning? Anyone out there? Owen, you got anything you'd like to ask?
No, not at the moment. Thank you.
No worries. I'm going to ask this. What's the most embarrassing post you've ever been involved with, Kenneth? You said to be very bold and kiss and everything else, but I want to know what was something that you really shuddered with initially, but you was pleased that you did it and the results paid off.
So I think there's a couple of things. I think there's one example where I look back at it and say that was a bad idea, and it was half a bad idea. And then there's other things that I'm like, oh, I'm not sure about it, and then I put it out and was like, oh, this is cool. So the first one is back in the day, I used to post every piece of content that I worked on. I would post and say, hey, look what I did, look what I did, and I was really proud of it. And again, it got 2 or 3 likes and no messages from anyone. And then I was like, okay, well, this is not, somehow it's not working, but I think it's really good. I think it's awesome. And then looking back on it, it's like, this is just self-promotion. This is all about me, and how great I am, and it's not about anyone else. And then later on, I did a series, which you can still find if you look on Instagram, where every single Friday I would post a reel using some really basic VFX and kind of camera trickery, and just have fun in front of the camera. And then I would subsequently do a breakdown of how I made the video. I did this literally to improve my camera skills, to get more confident in just doing some of the more complex things. But it led me to some of the best clients that I ever had, because they really enjoyed how I broke down the concepts of video because they could understand it, they said, hey, we would love you to come and either do a talk or to come and do some content for us. They resonated with me as a person because I was showing myself and my character and the fun that I have. Whereas previously I'd just been posting, here is a result, here is a result, here is a result. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. So at the point of posting these videos, and I'm happy to share them now, because they're all still live, not archived. Yeah, I was like, this is silly. It's me during the pandemic, one of them playing with juggling toilet roll.
Well, that one, can you put that in the Startup to Stand Up circle platform and put that on the Startup to Stand Up WhatsApp group? Because that could inspire some action.
100%. 100%.
Please do. All right.
Yeah, not a problem.
And also with some words on what happened from that, the outcome.
Yeah, not a problem. Not a problem.
Was that sorry, is that during lockdown as well, or?
It's just 2020. I couldn't go outside, and obviously filming was a lot harder because people were scared of being near people. And obviously had copious amounts of toilet roll because everyone did. And I can't remember exactly what I did on the video because it's 5 years ago. But I just remember thinking this is a dumb video, and then breaking down how I did it. Yeah, so I messaged and was like, "Oh, I really love the way that you explained how this worked. I never knew how you could do so many things with a camera. Also, we're building this. Could you help?" And it's like, toilet roll. This toilet roll has this kind of power. Cool.
It did then.
Yeah.
I did something in 2017 which was very stupid. I had just acquired a new French bulldog. His name was Bert, and I took him into my business, and we had a very creative guy, and he said, right, what we're going to do is build a series around Bert called Bert the Business Dog. And we put Bert in a bow tie, and he did a series of things on LinkedIn, and it was ridiculous, but it resulted in loads and loads of inquiries and stuff like that they're still benefiting from today. So it goes to show, you do it, it can be a complete disaster, but then a stupid thing like Bert Business Dog was an outrageous success.
We love it. Try the unknown.
That's right.
Do we have
any
more
additional questions?
Yeah.
Anyone?
I thought what you were
go on.
going to ask there, Ollie, was I guess anything kind of embarrassing happened because something's backfired when you're, I guess, putting out content that it's like the whole kiss thing, or it's the lesson that it doesn't really. It's the worst thing that happens is no one really looks at it.
I think interestingly, a lot of people think everybody cares. So sometimes you'll post content and you'll think to yourself, if I post this, people are going to think differently of me. So it's so hard, it's so difficult to get someone to care about your business, to care about what you do as a person. So when you do post content, the likelihood that someone comes back and says, "Oh, I don't like this," and it's backfired, is fairly low. However, I will say that being someone who obviously creates content in tandem with people, the earlier stages of my career, and obviously didn't get a chance to kind of cover much of it, was very egotistical, was very, very, very much about how my camera can do all these amazing things and it's expensive and like, you should hire me because I'm great. Backfired because essentially I would make this content, spend hours on it, and then send it to the client and they'd say, yeah, not too sure about it. We might move in a different direction. And you think to yourself, okay, as much as I've invoiced for this, kind of misaligned, totally misaligned on what's going on. And I think kind of moving to where we are now, it very much is less about me, 100%. I think I'm somebody who knows things, but there are people that are way further ahead in their journey than I am. My only job is to really just get people to post online, because I think it will grow the startup ecosystem, and I think it will kind of fuel us all better, because if there's more money going around, then there's more jobs, and we're all a bit more happier because we can pay our mortgages. So I think, yeah, things backfiring will ultimately happen, but I think it kind of comes down to essentially what we looked at today. How do you strategize from the very beginning? This is what we're going to do. This is the framework. This is our sandbox, and we can play inside the sandbox. You can never get in trouble for playing inside the sandbox. You can get in trouble for taking sand and throwing it inside the house. So stay inside the sandbox that you've created. Don't mess up the house, and life is great. It won't. It sounds egotistical to say this, but I can honestly tell you, it has never backfired if it started with strategy. It has always backfired if it hasn't started with strategy.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Appreciate
I like the analogies.
Very much, Lachlan. James, did you have a point?
I posted in the chat just that is he asking that what we really got to do is unleash our inner idiot?
I would propose another question to you, which would be, why are you binding the inner idiot?
It's a question my wife asks all the time.
Mario again. I think at certain times, yeah, let the inner idiot go, or the inner child, I think, is more important. Like, just be free to kind of post things. And so my son he's 15 months old, and he is a daily reminder of there is nothing that is impossible and everything is made up. This guy will go outside, and if he's got this weird thing now where he likes to poke people in their belly buttons. Really awkward when you're in Sainsbury's and he's going like that, and you're like, don't do it, don't do it. But it's a reminder that he's just like, well, what's going to happen? Someone laughs, and they typically go, what's he going to do? Oh, he's about to poke his belly button, and they burst out laughing. I'm not saying as adults go out and touch people's belly buttons. That is not the advice. But when it comes to content, I think it's really we try and do this really like stiff corporate things of like, I raised £5 million. I'm the greatest. Everyone should be behind everything we're doing. We're the best. Rather than, I raised £5 million, but I also haven't slept for 7 days. And that is the reality of entrepreneurship. I have been emailing over 200 investors, and only 20 of them got back to me. And actually, we weren't able to raise this round. That is the reality. I think the inner child doesn't filter. The inner child just does. So yes, release the inner child, because there is no need for that child to be bound at all. It's got the greatest advice ever. Don't poke people's belly buttons.